Hello everybody, I hope that you're well. My name is Christianne and welcome to my channel, Backpacking Bananas. I am currently backpacking up the east coast of Australia, but you've not seen these videos yet. You should be currently in the middle of watching the Pakistan series, which I hope that you're really enjoying. I've been working hard on putting it all together. Now you may notice I'm not in a dorm room right now, which I have been for the entirety of this trip, and I just needed my own space, and so I got a hotel room for the night, which is just absolutely glorious. And I feel like we all deserve our own space at some point on our backpacking trips. And I thought, own space, what a brilliant time to film a banana Q&A, because I have not done one of these in ages, and I thought it would be really fun to have a special topic in today's video of tackling your travel dilemmas. Anything that you are having trouble with, maybe with an upcoming trip, maybe it's a current trip that you're on. I asked you to ask me questions on my Instagram, which you did a couple of days ago, and if you're not following, at Christianne on Instagram, and I'm going to answer them for you in today's video. So without further ado, let's get into it. MJ Dan asks what to do when on a 4-month backpacking trip with a friend but not enjoying it with her. This is a really tricky one, and I feel like it's super common. Like, I really think there is such a tiny percentage of people that we can actually travel and go backpacking with. It's such an intense thing to go through with someone, and I know personally there's really not very many people that I could actually go backpacking with, and I have fallen out with friends in the past. We're all good now, but it happens, and I'm guessing that you do not want to fall out with this friend. And so I think my best advice for you would be to communicate with your friend that you're feeling that there's a bit of tension between you and you really don't want that to escalate, and so you feel like it would be best to spend some time by yourself so that you can recharge and so that you both can get the best out of this experience, because you feel like the way that things are going are not the best for either of you. I know that's going to be a really difficult conversation to have with your friend, especially if she is not on the same page. However, this is your trip as much as it is her trip. You're spending a lot of money to be in the situation that you're in, and I believe that you should give yourself the best chance of having the best time in the countries that you are in. But of course, chat it through with your friend first. It may even be that she's feeling the same way, who knows? And then that conversation will be a lot easier, but you're never gonna change the situation that you're in if you don't start opening up that conversation. How can I still access my favorite shows on Netflix when I'm in a country that doesn't have those shows on their Netflix? I didn't actually receive that question, but because of the lovely sponsors of today's video, Surfshark, I'm going to tell you how to tackle this problem. So in order to change the virtual location of our device when we're abroad, back to our home country or to anywhere in the world, you are going to need a VPN. A VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it actually has a whole host of benefits. Now, Surfshark is one of the only VPNs which allows you access on an unlimited number of your devices with just the one account. So you could be watching Netflix on your laptop, on your iPad, or on your phone, and you can use Surfshark across the board. My other favorite benefit of having Surfshark is that when it is switched on, it will turn your public Wi-Fi connection into a private one. So what that actually means is when you are connected to a public Wi-Fi network, it might be in an airport, it might be in a cafe, it might be in a hotel, basically any Wi-Fi network which doesn't require you to put in a password. What happens when you're connected is it allows hackers to get into your devices via that connection, which is not good at all. We do not want our devices to be hacked. But when you have Surfshark switched on, it acts as a virtual shield on that connection, which means that none of those evil hackers can get in, which is just something that it feels silly not to have on our devices in 2023. Now, as always, I have an amazing discount code for you where you can get 83% off plus an extra 3 months for free with Surfshark when you use my code backpacking or using the link in the description. Alexa PR Pitch asks how to deal with wanting to change plans for a guy. Oh, this is a really good question, and I feel like it's super relatable. Now, I am always here for a travel romance. I'm also always here for like doing things for the plot and just to like spice up your life, make things more exciting. But I do think that does also need to be an element of like logic and sense here. So I think with this situation, you kind of just want to weigh up the pros and cons of everything. I would first look at what future do you see with this guy? If this is a guy who you genuinely see a future with and like even when you're back home in your home countries, you see this going the distance, I would 100% like change my plans up to make this happen, because I think that that's super exciting. If this is just a guy that you see as a travel fling and you think realistically, okay, when we both move back home, we're going to be on opposite sides of the world, we're not going to see each other. I don't know what your circumstances are, but let's say you're thinking like, you know, this is not something that's going to last the distance. I would be much less inclined to change my plans for that guy. However, never say never. What is he doing? And what was your original plan? And how much is it going to F up your own plans? Are you going to have to pay a lot more money? If you're going to have to pay a lot more money, don't do it. But you know, if it's just a case of doing things that you weren't planning on doing before, you think you're going to have a lot more fun because you're traveling with this new person who you're excited about, change your plans. Why not? I think these things make good stories. And I think even if it ends up going tits up, you have a good story to tell. And you can't say that you didn't try. Everyone loves a trier. But no matter what you end up going with, Alexa, just know that you've made the right decision. Always believe that after you've made the decision, that you've made the right one. Stick with that. You have always made the right decision. Lauren McHugh asks, what to do when someone's being really loud and annoying in the middle of the night at a hostel? I really hate when this happens. If it is the middle of the night and this person is being inconsiderate of the fact that there's people trying to sleep, I would say something. I would just say something along the lines of, hey, would you mind keeping it down a little bit? I'm really trying to sleep. Because I think sometimes the person may not realise that they're being loud and annoying, especially if they've had a drink. People are just not really aware and they're not thinking. And so they might be like, oh shit, sorry, yeah, I'll try and keep it down. If they are just a horrible, inconsiderate person and speaking to them does nothing, you kind of have two options. Either you stick in your earplugs and your over-the-ear noise cancelling headphones, which is really annoying, but like might drown them out a little bit. Or if they really are just being rude and inappropriate and making you feel uncomfortable, it's worth escalating it to the hostel reception. And on that note, I always try to go for hostels which have a 24-hour reception, or at least like a phone line that you can call in the middle of the night if you have any issues. Because if this person or group of people are making you feel uncomfortable, the hostel can hopefully take over, have more authority, and deal with the uncomfortable conversation that you don't want to have to go through. Where's Kylie asks, how to know which friends were an in the moment thing versus worth keeping in touch with. I don't think you really need to know this in advance. I find that most friends you meet traveling these days, you either get them on WhatsApp or you get them on Instagram, and whether you stay in touch with them or not will be natural to you. If you want to keep in touch with them, you just will. You'll message each other, you'll want to speak to them, you'll want to see each other. And if not, if it feels like a chore to keep in touch with that person, then they're probably just an in-the-moment friend. And there's nothing wrong with that. And chances are you'll still have their contact, you'll still have them on Instagram and WhatsApp. And it's quite funny because then in like years to come, that person will pop up on your feed because they've just got engaged, or they just had a baby, or they just bought a house, and you're just like, oh, I remember that person. We did XYZ in Thailand together. Oh, that's nice. And I really don't think that there's any like negative feelings towards if a friend was just an in the moment person, or if you decide that you want to keep in touch with them. Travel for Life asks, I have such a hard time meeting people even when I stay in hostels. How do you do it? So yeah, normally my first tip for making friends would be to stay in a hostel, and specifically stay in hostel dorm rooms. And I would even go as far to say the bigger dorm rooms I find are better for making friends, because there's more likely to be someone in your room who's up for a chat. And whenever I walk into a hostel dorm room, like if there's someone in there, I just always introduce myself, ask the other person's name, maybe where they're from, and just going from there really. When it comes to the hostel dorm room, you're not going to make friends in every single hostel. I certainly don't. And especially friends who you may not necessarily click with. I don't know if there's like an online perception with hostels that like you make friends everywhere you go and in every hostel you stay in, because that is 100% not true. I'd say you meet people in almost every destination. Whether you make friends with them or not, I think is another story. But my other favourite way of meeting people and making friends is by joining events and group tours that may be happening, even if it's just like a half-day excursion of something in the area. Like I went kayaking with sea dolphins in Byron Bay and I met some people on that tour. Or if you're a scuba diver, like signing up to a dive trip for the day and meeting other people who have a common interest in the thing that you're going to be doing. I think it comes down to luck a lot of the time and crossing paths with people who you align values and interests with, and like you just get along with on a chemistry level. The more likely you are to meet people who you may want to make friends with. Perkins_Edwin asks, when you don't want to leave somewhere, get stuck, how do you make yourself move on? Quite literally, just book yourself an accommodation in another town, book yourself a bus, book yourself an accommodation, and something that's non-refundable as well, because then you will leave. You have to. If you know deep down that you want to leave, even if you're enjoying yourself, just make the booking. You're gonna have to go. Yes, it might be hard, but I don't think there's any other advice I can give you other than just use your willpower here. Janice581 asks, how many older travelers do you run into? Are there cool people to backpack after 40? I think this massively depends on where you are going. So right now I am backpacking the east coast of Australia, and it is without a doubt the youngest demographic of backpackers that I have ever come across. I'm actually rarely meeting people who are older than myself. I'm 29. However, in South America, for example, I was genuinely one of the youngest backpackers / around the average age. I met a lot of people in their 30s and even in their 40s as well. And whether they're cool or not does not depend on their age. That depends on just their personality themselves. I think there are cool people of all ages. I definitely say that like South America, Southeast Asia, I imagine like Africa as well, and the countries considered more challenging to travel, you're definitely gonna find mature backpackers there. Clarice Scott says, too many countries I want to visit, not enough time. What do I do? Central and South America. So the good news, Clarice, is that this is probably not going to be the only time in your life that you ever travel. So it's super important to remember that wherever you're not traveling now, don't feel bad about it, because I'm sure you're going to get the opportunity to do it at some point in your life. I see it so often with backpackers that they want to cram in every single country and an entire continent into their trip because they just want to see it all. And I get it, because I absolutely used to be that person when I was younger. But it was when I started having this realization of, oh, I'm not dying after this trip. I am going to be able to go away again. I don't need to do everything right now. That's going to help you feel a lot more calm and content with the trip that you plan. In terms of Central and South America though, I can't tell you where I think you should go because I don't know how long you're going for. I don't know what your interests are, but if I'm going to say anything, it would be that I think Central America is a good place to start. It's slightly easier traveling around Central America than it is South America because it's smaller, the countries are more manageable. You could spend 2 weeks in a country in Central America and feel like you've really kind of done it and visited a lot of the spots. And so if you want to feel like very accomplished by visiting several countries on a trip, I definitely think Central is a better place for that, because the countries in South America are so big. Like I spent 3 months in Colombia and didn't feel like I went to every single place there. I spent 2 months in Peru and there was definitely more that I could have visited there. So if you want to feel more accomplished with several countries, let's say, I'd start in Central America. A redhead boy, aka Devon, asks, balancing activities and resting when you're on a time limit like a month. It's long, but it's short. This is so true. And I think that when you're backpacking around a particular destination, it's really nice to have at least 3 to 4 days in each place so that you're not traveling too fast and you can do like more than one thing in each destination and have time to chill as well. So if you're worried about rest time, all I can say is just plan to go to less places so that you have that rest time. You will be so grateful to yourself that you planned it that way. And like I said, responding to a previous question, this is not the last time that you're ever going to go traveling. And if there is something close by that you kind of wish you did or wish you had time to do, you can go back there another time. No one's going to stop you. Josie Papenga asks, okay, but how do you book a one-way flight when you need proof of onward travel? Now, I used to have like a pretty foolproof solution to this involving Expedia.com, where if you booked a flight on Expedia.com, it gave you the permission to cancel within 24 hours of booking it. And so it was just a really good solution to this. However, it has come to my attention that you cannot do this anymore, which is very annoying for me and for all of you as well. I did manage to get around this last year. I was booking a flight out of Thailand because I needed proof of onward travel and I didn't have any. I booked it from Bangkok to Cambodia. And what I did is I paid extra for free cancellation. It was like another 20 or 30 quid on top of the flight to have this free cancellation. And I then obviously used that as proof. It was great because it was a legit flight. And then when I cancelled it, I actually got all of my money back. However, getting my money back took several months. So it wasn't the most ideal option, but it did work. There are also websites which allow you to book like fake onward flights, which is completely legal. It normally costs around $10, which is something that you could do. If it is a country that borders other countries, you could look into buying a bus ticket or maybe even a boat ticket out of the country that may or may not have free cancellation. Or if you know you're going to leave the country eventually, it could just be worth booking a flight out and paying a little bit extra for like free date changes. And then if you don't make up ending that date that you initially booked yourself, you can just change it to something else. There's lots of things that you can do, and I'll be honest, I tend to just leave this until the very last minute. I kind of just risk getting into a country to see if they will let me in without proof of onward travel. I find that around half the time, if you're honest with them, if they're like, oh, if you get to the check-in desk of a flight and they're like, oh, we need your proof of onward travel, and you say, hey, look, I'm backpacking, this is my plan, I'm planning on going to this country next, I just don't know the date, I don't want to book my onward travel because I want to keep my plans open. Sometimes they are just kind of okay with that and they're like, okay, off you go. So I leave it until the last minute, and then I see when I get to the airport if I need to like book myself a flight. Slither Hither asks, where to live in Oz for 1 year working Hollybob visa? I would always recommend traveling around Australia first if you have the funds to do so, because then you can pick your favorite place. I don't think I can, obviously I know nothing about you, I don't think I could pick a place for you. They're all very, very different. Think about the weather that you like, think about the lifestyle that you like, but if you've traveled it all yourself beforehand, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know I like this place. Vida Con Mimi says, I am terrified by all of it, mostly on how my family will react and that $28,000 is not enough money. How long are you wanting to be traveling for? Because £28,000 is a lot of money. Like if you're going to Southeast Asia, like $1,000 a month generally is a very decent backpacking budget. Here in Australia, on the other hand, you're looking at more like $3,000 to $4,000 per month. So you're not going to be able to stay in a more expensive country for a longer amount of time. But you could get yourself around the whole world for like an entire year with $28,000. That's a lot of money. So I don't know how long you're wanting to travel for, but I think you'll be fine. And in terms of how your family will react, it's a hard one because you can't pick your family. But if you are over the age of 18, your family can't stop you from doing anything. And if this is something that you really want to do and it's going to make you happy, I think if they're your family and they love you, they should be happy for you no matter what. They're probably scared for you, but that's all right. They're not the ones traveling. You are. You've got this. Elspeth.Mathiasen says, I want to stay in a country longer, but don't have enough money to travel. I don't know exactly what you mean by travel, but maybe what you can do is look into things like World Packers or Workaway, where you can start volunteering in said country, get free accommodation, sometimes even free food as well. And then so you're still in the country, you don't even need a working holiday visa, you can still be on your tourist visa, you're still meeting other like-minded people, you're contributing to the local society, and you're hardly spending any money whatsoever. Isabel Neve asks, scared to be spontaneous, e.g. booking rooms the night I get somewhere. How do I relax? So I very much like to be spontaneous, but I do not like to book places on the day because you're right, that's not really relaxing at all. But what I will do is make a rough plan of where I'm going ahead of time. In each destination that I want to go to, I will do my research on booking.com or Hostelworld and make a list of all the places that I think are really good. And then when it comes to either the night before or 2 nights before, I know I want to travel to that destination, I will just look into booking the accommodation. That is very easy to do in pretty much all countries of Southeast Asia, South America, unless there's like a big event, things don't tend to book out. The only exception I would say is quite literally where I am right now on Australia's east coast in peak season. Things need to be booked out like weeks in advance. But if you're not here, pretty much anywhere in the world, you can book the day before, 2 days before, and it's sweet. Should I spend Aussie summer in Byron Bay or Sydney? Okay, you kind of got two factors here. I think the weather's going to be better in Sydney in summer, generally. It might be a bit more rainy in Byron Bay because it's a bit closer to the tropics. But you also want to consider, do you want to live in a small beach town where you're going to know everyone within about a week? Or do you want big city vibes where there's always going to be something going on, where you can travel around easily on public transport, where you've got lots of different options, lots of shopping, blah, blah, blah. What appeals more to you? Lily.May asks how to cope with disappointment when traveling, an activity being unavailable, etc. My mentality when it comes to things like this, because obviously this has happened to me a lot, especially when you're traveling through countries like somewhat fast and you don't have time to wait for the weather or wait for things to be postponed. You have like one opportunity, and if it doesn't happen on that day, like you can't do it at that time. And it is disappointing, but my mentality that I always turn to is, it's just another reason for me to come back here one day. And that's it. And that genuinely makes me feel a lot better. I'm just like, okay, cool. So the next time I come to this destination, I've got something fun to do, which I've never done before. It works for me. Jenny Jana says, 4-bed hostel coming up in a city where I know no one. Surfers paradise. That doesn't sound like a dilemma, Jenny. That just sounds like a normal day out backpacking. The less people you know, the better. I love rocking up somewhere where I don't know anyone. It's fun. And the final question in this Q&A is from OMG Ayan, who says, is Pakistan still happening this year? And yes, it is. So you will hopefully be halfway through watching the Pakistan series at the moment. And I am running another 2 group trips to Pakistan this year. Woohoo! I don't even know if I've even mentioned this yet, but yes, it is happening. Do follow me on Instagram up here for more updates about this, and also make sure you click the link in the description, which is going to be linked to sign up for the mailing letter of my website if you are not already, because this is where I'm going to be sending out the links for when the bookings do open. Last year, these Pakistan trips sold out. I think the first one sold out in like 3 minutes, and the second one sold out in about 30 seconds. It's absolutely unbelievable. The spaces go super, super fast, and the trips themselves are really once in a lifetime opportunities. We get together such a fun group of people. I'm obviously going to be there in Pakistan with you on both of the trips. We're doing a similar itinerary to last time, but also a little bit different because I'm wanting to go to new places. But it's important to know these are hiking expeditions. We will be hiking almost every single day. Nothing ridiculously drastic. It's never really longer than 10 kilometers in a day, but these are at high altitude. We're going to be going up to 3,500, maybe even 4,000 meters on these hikes. So it's high altitude, it's challenging, but it's up in the Himalayas in some of the most incredible landscapes in the world. And getting to experience Pakistani culture is also just something that's so special, because this is a country that they're just not used to tourists, and they are some of the kindest people in the world. And it's just a truly magical experience to be there. So yes, we are running them again this year. Yes, you are invited. Click the link in the description. There's going to be more details there, and you will be informed on how you can make a booking to join us yourself. So exciting. Thank you guys so much for watching this Q&A. I hope you've really enjoyed it, and I've helped you tackle some of those travel dilemmas that you've got. Please give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, because it really helps to support my channel, and I will see you guys in the next video, which is probably going to be another one in the Pakistan series. Bye bye.